The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.
There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. My name is Priscilla Almquist-Olsen. Today is April 10th, 2026, and I am so delighted to welcome back to the show Karen Miranda, who is a medium, and she has written a book, and she wants to tell our audience all about it and me. And the book is called Just a Thought Away. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Priscilla. Thank you for having me. I feel very, happy to be back again. And
tell me a little bit about how this book got started. What inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me about this book is I'm very blessed to have everybody that let me share their stories in the book. But what inspired me the most was, just the different children, teenagers, and a young adult that came through in the book for me to, let me share their stories with their loved ones that were left behind.
Okay, and so what can we expect to read in the book?
What can you expect? You can learn from the book that life goes on after you pass away, and our loved ones are still around us, looking over from heaven and the other side, to prove the continuity of life does continue after the so-called change called death. And whatever you're looking for in the book, whether it's grief or foreclosure, or knowing that your loved ones are okay.
And I understand you have some poetry in the book.
Yes, I have some poetry in the book. I don't know if you'd like me to read a poem from the book, but I have a poem, and I have poems in the book.
Great.
At the beginning of each chapter.
Well, I know. I want you to read near the end of the interview. I know you've picked out some passages you want to read.
Huh?
You want to read some passages.
Okay.
But...
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. So would you like to read a poem now?
Yes, if that's okay.
Sure. Let me just review for the audience that Karen had a show here before she moved to Plymouth, and it was a regular, I think, monthly show. Yeah. And she took calls, so people in Easton called in, and she gave them a reading. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting also to me because my first interview with Karen, when it was over, she immediately turned to me and said, "Did you have anyone in your family who had difficulty swallowing or eating?" And I was so shocked because my grandmother, my mother's mother, had a procedure when she was 9 years old where they burned her throat for something, and it interfered with the swallowing mechanism. So it would take her several hours to eat a meal which had to be ground up. So she was always tall and slender. And but I was so surprised. And then Karen said, "I see a baby," and I was even more shocked because my grandmother had a baby girl, Judith Christina, who died at 2 months. So I was so impressed, and nobody in my family knows that story but me. So I am a believer.
And that's wonderful, because families don't realize, are they okay? or, are they alone on the other side, and just to rest ensure they are okay. They're with loved ones on the other side, and inhabit, or, whatever your belief is with them, and they're not alone.
Yeah.
I'm ready to read a
Thank you.
poem. It's called Whispers from Teens. Even though I was taken soon, sunshine will always be around you, and you will feel the warmth. When it's raining tears from heaven, remember my pain has been swept away. When the stars come out at night, shining bright, I will be smiling down from the other side of spirit. Even though I had left, God has called me home. My love will be with you always.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And that really represents your philosophy, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, where can somebody get the book? All right, the book is Just a Thought Away, and write that down, and you can order that on Amazon, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, of course, we order everything on Amazon, don't we?
Right. Yeah. Everything. I'm going. That is so true.
Yeah. So, tell me, have you had any recent experiences where you have given a reading to somebody and it was pretty unusual?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, it was around just before Christmas when somebody called the station up for a reading, and they didn't know the person had passed away, and they were coming through, and she said, I don't understand any of it that's coming through. And I said, that's okay. Then a couple of hours later, she found out her friend passed away, and he was coming through on the show to let her know he was okay.
Wow.
So it's called spontaneous readings when they come through like that, because sometimes they will come through really fast. And I never experienced anything like that before. But she found peace within, knowing that he's okay.
Right. And that's really important, isn't it, to your mission?
Yeah, well, my mission?
Right. It's really important to your mission that people feel peace.
Yeah, and they are at peace because, people still want to know because, it's uncertainty, and it's also fear of the unknown when people pass away, and people are looking for foreclosure, a healing from an issue with them, with their death and grief. It's okay to grieve and be sad, and people just want to know, are they okay mostly. And I could read the reason why I wrote the book, if it's in here, and stuff like that, of why I wrote the book. But it's whatever you're looking for, read a book, like I said.
I remember you told me that sometimes it gets very crowded, right? And that there are people who are jockeying for attention.
Yeah.
And it gets crowded in the...
Oh, when it gets crowded with the people coming through?
Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming when they start coming through with the deceased loved ones that are in heaven and on the other side. So you see me with my necklace on, and there's like my on-off switch to the other side when because one time, I want to share this with you guys. One time I got a phone call, and the person wasn't understanding who was coming in with the message. So I said, okay, because they had like 4 or 5 people that were coming through. But then when I got off the phone, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling the connection, and that's okay too. I said, I don't like to make up stuff. But then when the when the person called after that, they understood all the information that was coming through from the person that called beforehand, so they could take all the information. And sometimes it could be very overwhelming, and stuff like that. So that's when I had to learn to control it.
You have what?
I had to learn to control it. Control the spirits when they come in really fast and all that stuff, when they come in like that. And you got to wait your turn. You got to step back, because you'll hear me saying that to them too.
So what are some of the experiences that you've had? Let's say a difficult experience.
Difficult experience? Yeah. Suicide is very difficult, because suicide, I want to talk about it in my book, suicide is at a whole nother level. And the bullying, I have a story in here that talks about bullying in my book, where a teenage girl took her own life because she was bullied so bad at school. And people don't realize what effect it will have on somebody when they get bullied or what you're saying to them. And you got to remember, you might be being bullied yourself, but you just don't do that to somebody else because you don't know how it affects them, in the end. And sometimes, when you get bullied, you could be getting bullied at home, and home should be the safest place there is. So, I like to send messages out to the bully too. People don't know the situation and the issue, but you don't realize that somebody that you're bullying, you don't realize the lasting effects it could have on them. So that's when it's hard, because there's a couple of stories in my book where people have taken their lives because they were bullied so bad.
And we're talking young people.
Yep, very young people, teenagers.
Right.
Yeah, that have been bullied so bad.
And do you feel that teenage years, you want to fit in?
Right.
You want to be accepted, you want to fit in, you don't want to be on the outside. And I think that's part of the reason why they get desperate. And
then people don't really realize. And bullying is at a whole new level with kids today, with text message bullying. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that they're being bullied, they're bullying and making threats on the phone, on text messages. You don't realize what effects that could be having on the person too, because that took it to a whole nother level. Everybody had this in their generation, but now it's like at a whole other level.
Right. So now you have pages in the book about suicide, and you have pages in the book about other challenges. And
you
want to talk
other challenges, just not really, just to be able to deliver the message from people that are crossed over to the other side, because not everybody's open to this, and stuff like that. So it's, you got to try to figure out how to deliver the message with people. And mostly it's just all stories and experiences I've had that are in the book. But the hardest one of all was a trip to Maine. Way back. And I would go, and there was a little boy in the bedroom, and I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are or who you belong to. So, of course, Karen being Karen, decided to do some investigating work. And I went to a family friend that we were with on the trip. And I said, you know the history of the place. And she said, I want you to meet somebody. And I said to her, there was a little boy in the bedroom. And she said, oh, all right. And then I told her, I went up to the fair at night to see what it looked like at night. And all of a sudden it lit up in all these brilliant colors that words can't even explain over the river. So we saw the owner the next day, and I described the little boy to her. And she said, he drowned it upstream. And then I got telling her about the spirit energies that I was seeing over the lake, because that spirit's not fully formed yet. So if you see something like that, what happened is she told me the history about the river. People from all over come and put the ashes in the river.
Wow.
Yeah, deceased loved ones. So that's why I was saying that, because the energy, you know what I'm saying, with people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have been doing readings for many, many years. What was the first experience that you had? You were a young girl.
With the reading, respects and say prayers for him. And also I just started hearing, tell your aunts over in the corner to stop crying. They go, okay, I'm hearing this. And I said, I can't do that, and not realizing what was going on with me. So when he was very persistent with me, because sometimes they'll do that till I get the message across. And I'm like 13 years old. I said, okay, people are going to really think I'm a kook. Go tell your aunts to stop crying. My chest isn't in any more pain. So I went over to them and paid my respects. And I said, aunties, you got to stop crying. And they all looked at me. And they said, why? And I said, Uncle Nicky is telling me to tell you to stop crying and that he's not in any more pain and feeling sick anymore. he was behind the wheel of a car and he had a massive heart attack. And I had no way of knowing, being like 13 years old, that had happened. But he went into a wall because he didn't want to hurt anybody else in the process of what was going on with him during his heart attack.
So did he commit suicide?
Yeah.
No, he just had a major heart attack.
He just had a major heart attack without any warning or anything from what I was told. And he just had a major heart attack. And my aunts just looked at me. How do you know that? I said, well, he's telling me to tell you and stop feeling sorry for yourself, and not to be sad about his passing, but celebrate his passing.
Uh-huh. Right. And we do have celebrations of life now, don't we?
Yep. And celebrations of life are wonderful ways to celebrate because they want you to be celebrating their life, not their death, and to be sad and stuff like that. Remember their favorite thing they like to do and go do it. You know what I'm saying? And celebrate their life, not their passing. Share the memories and the stories. And when the holidays come, we wouldn't be sad crying behind, under the tree or something like that. I'd be celebrating. So go celebrate life, share my memories, and celebrate my life that way. It could be a favorite food or even the holidays. And I know that holidays get tough and stuff like that, but you get through it. It gets better and easier, but celebrate their life.
Mm-hmm. And by celebrating their life, you're honoring them.
Yep, and that is so true because you really are honoring them. And that's what they would want. They would want to be, because one time I said to somebody, and did a reading for her. And in her reading, she said to me, tell her, I don't want her to be sad because if it was me, and she passed away, he would want her to not to be sad about her passing, if that's making sense, but to celebrate and honor their life. And it could be anything. It could be as simple as going out for their favorite food. You know what I'm saying? Or like, just celebrating them in a thought or writing a letter.
So when you did TV readings, I'm sure that you spoke to people who called in and you told them that they should be celebrating the life.
Yes, when I see birthday cakes, it's very symbolic. And I tell them, so-and-so's birthday. They said, yes, it is. Happy birthday from them when they send a message. Go celebrate the birthday, celebrate the happy times. Celebrate the happy times before they were, got sick or whatever, how they crossed over to the other side. Because that's what they would want.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened after that first encounter with the spirits when you were 13? What happened after that? I mean, what was the reaction of all your aunties?
They just all stopped, all three of them. They all stopped crying, wiped their tears away. And they were getting some form of healing from that too, where they said, this 13-year-old is telling us, and they got a form of healing from it.
Mm-hmm. And what happened? What happened after that? So you were startled too, weren't you? Mm-hmm. You were very startled. This is the first time that you had experienced.
Yeah. Well,
this.
What else happened is I knew when I was in my teenage years that somebody was getting ready to die. All of a sudden, I got a feeling, that somebody was going to pass away. And I looked up to the heavens and I said, okay, somebody's going to pass away. This was the 70s. You didn't talk about such things growing up, being brought up Catholic. So I just went and kept it to myself. And sure enough, the phone rang the next morning and my grandmother passed away. And they would let me know ahead of time that they were going to pass away. And this happened several years later, a couple of years later, actually, on an aunt that I only didn't really know, but I had that feeling come over me again. And she said, I got the feeling somebody's going to die. So it's called sure knowing, when somebody's going to die ahead of time. And sure enough, she died. I got the phone rang, and she passed away.
So what happened when you were 14 and 15? Did this become a daily encounter?
For a while, because it did interfere with some studies at school. And I talk about that in my book too, when I was younger, actually. And it kind of like drifted away for some sense of normalcy with my life until I was diagnosed with having multiple sclerosis. Then everything, I was born with it, but everything shifted. And that's when things got very intense with it, because I used to sing in the choir, and I started saying stuff to people in the choir, and they said, "That's all well and good, Karen. The only thing is, we appreciate it, but they passed away." And I said, okay, there's something more seriously wrong with me than having multiple sclerosis. But they couldn't understand all the information, and they were getting some form of healing from it.
Okay, so now I know you've picked out some passages in the book that you'd like to share.
Yeah, could you read it, Priscilla?
Oh,
if you could read it, I'd be
sure.
happy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which one? This
Yeah,
one?
this one.
Okay. So this is called Who Are You? My husband suggested we take the children out for dinner. It was a dreary evening and I didn't want to go, but I thought, why not? It was Christmas time and all the lighted holiday decorations elevated my mood. After a lovely dinner, we reached the car and got buckled in. We realized immediately there was something amiss with our backup camera. As I looked back, I saw a mist, and it was starting to form into a teenage girl. Without thinking, I told my husband to be careful not to hit her. My daughter saw her as well, but she disappeared, and we enjoyed the holiday lights on our way home. After the children were in bed, I began thinking of the female who was reflected in the mirror. The next day, I spoke to my husband about the rearview camera and my vision. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "You know, I don't see what you see." We continued our conversation, and I told him that it's okay, and I was happy that he took the time to listen to me. A week later, my friend Beth called me and asked if I wanted to get together to have coffee, and we made plans. After being seated outside, I told Beth there is a teenager all around her and asked if she would like a spirit reading, to which she agreed. I described the girl, who was immediately recognized by my friend. The young girl told me that she had acted on her own accord and asked my friend if she had committed suicide. She had. The young girl spoke up again and said she just couldn't take it anymore due to the situation around her and that there was nothing anyone could do. She continued, "I am smart up here. I like to wear makeup, and when I am with my group of friends, I am fine." Then she gently went away. Beautiful story.
Thank you.
And beautifully written. And that's your story, isn't it?
It is a true story. I have a drawing, but it didn't make it to the book. And I drew on the paper, and I have spirit. But there are drawings of people that passed away in my book, too, that were validated. I had to get special permission to share everything that's in the book from people, so...
Okay. So you gained a lot of pleasure, but also feelings when you wrote this book, when you finished it, Karen. How did you feel?
How did I feel when I finished giving her the information? I am just the vessel in between heaven and the earth plane. I'm just the in-between. But seeing the look that the person got, she had peace. And that made me feel good, that she knew that the girl that committed suicide, was not alone. That she was with family and friends over on the other side. Mm-hmm. So it's just to see her at peace.
That was enough for you.
Yeah, that was enough for me, because it's not about me, like I said. But I was more than happy to deliver the message and felt very honored.
So tell me about an experience that you had that you will never forget.
Gail is somebody who my friend Cindy and Colette lost. and she was quite the character. And I can remember her coming around and going, Cindy, I got to talk to you for a second. She said, all right. And she knew that what I did, and she's very open to mediumship. And I started reading it. I said, this with Gail, this happened with Gail, and this happened with Gail. And there was something about balloons. And she said, oh my God, Karen, nobody knew about that, but they were supposed to go on a hot air balloon. And I said, she was found and she had passed away in her sleep at home, which to me, that was the best way. Then it was funny, I lived on Plymouth and my kitchen, we have a lot of tourists go by my apartment, and they were on a fishing boat trip with the Captain John's boats. And all of a sudden her friend came to me and she said, too funny, because there were 3 of them in the group. Mm-hmm. They were looking for 3 whales. And I said, but they're only going to see 2. And I said, all right, I'll let them know that. So when they came back from the boat trip, they said to me, we only saw 2 whales. I just looked at them. There's only 2 of you left. And Gail was telling me to tell you. So they came on my show a couple of weeks afterwards. And a friend came through again. She was really quite the hot ticket. She actually booted 2 stories out of my book. That's how strong her energy was. And I said, she's telling me to tell you, she liked the Golden Girls, but there's something about the 3 Stooges going like this and like this. They understood. They said the 3 of us were like the 3 Stooges. And they couldn't believe the piece of information they got. And she's a kind soul that, has been around me on and off. Mm. She's a wealth of information.
I see. Yeah. So she comes through a lot?
She came through a lot. She's been quiet a little bit, but that's okay too. But she was quite the character with her personalities and everything. And she was just telling me her things, happy times and happy memories that she did when they were alive.
Right. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left, and it's been nice to have you back, and wonderful to see that you're writing books, and you have a children's book.
Yeah, I have another book that's in the drawer at home. He's called Meow. It's a true story of a cat survival for 45 days, which nobody knew about it. And then I have my memoirs I'm writing.
I see. But you do have a children's book, perhaps, you're writing.
What, huh?
You're writing a children's book.
I'm writing a new children's book. I have a children's book out. I was on Priscilla's show, actually. It was called Journey with the Animals, which is on Amazon.
Yes, I remember that now.
Yeah. And then I did the other one afterwards. I did it in 2023, and I had to do them again. And the book is nice because it tells about the cat side of point of view. Uh-huh. And then it goes to my point of view, my human family, so it's kind of cool.
So list the books that you've written so people can order them on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So it's Journey with the Animals, mm-hmm. Just a Thought Away.
Yep.
And what's the other one?
There was one out, it actually sold out. It's called Diary of a Spirit Medium.
I see. Mm-hmm. It's sold out. Well, that's happy news.
Yeah, that's all the news and the comings and goings of Karen Miranda.
Yeah. So, Karen, thank you so much for coming from Plymouth to North Easton and sharing your latest endeavors, this wonderful book, Just a Thought Away, and also your experiences that you've had with people and the joy and the peace that you give to others. So thank you for being with me today.
Thank you very much for having me and, let me share, death is not the end, it's the beginning, but when it's our time to go.
Yes.
Yes. And I love ones that go up and up and just a thought away and sending lots of love and light every day. I'm having it the other side.
Yeah. Okay. So until next time, be well.
Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.